Hola muchachos, ¿qué tal? Buenos días. Aquí tienen el horario para hoy, viernes, el 13 de mayo. No homework due for today, really no homework due for the rest of the semester as we get ready for your final exam, just to continue to look at the study guide that was given to you and to practice your speaking responses to the speaking questions. Learning targets for today are to continue working on Chapter 5. Chapter 5 we're only going to spend a couple classes on, and to learn how to listen and read about the news and natural disasters, and to talk and write about newsworthy events and share the details of newsworthy events. Your warm-up question continues to be a question from one of the speaking questions for the final exams. We're going to do number 10 today. ¿Cómo eras de niño? You should recognize this question. It's asking you, what were you like? How were you as a child? And contrary to your project, you guys are going to respond by just giving 3 adjectives for the speaking portion of the final. So begin by saying yo era, or de niño, de niña, yo era. And then pick 3 adjectives that agree with the gender that you identify. For example, por ejemplo, yo era chistoso, atlético y cariñoso de niño or de niña. All right, new notes for today are to continue to look at how the preterite and the imperfect are used in isolation and then also in conjunction with one another. And then we have guided practice exercises 12 and 14 to practice the imperfect and the preterite together. No homework due next class. Continue studying for your final exam and have a wonderful weekend. All right, page 248, 248, preterite and imperfect, other uses of both the preterite and the imperfect. Había and hubo are forms of haber, which means to be, but rather more so to exist. And haber could be in the imperfect or in the preterite. If it's in the imperfect, había, it's used to describe a situation that existed in the past. Whereas hubo, the preterite of haber, is used to say that an event took place. Había mucho humo en el apartamento. There was a lot of smoke in the apartment. Hubo un terremoto ayer a las 6 de la mañana. Hubo in the preterite to say an event took place. There was an earthquake yesterday at 6 o'clock in the morning. So you guys already know how the imperfect and the preterite can be used together to describe a situation that existed, to give background information, and then to talk about an event that took place within that background. Nadie estaba en la casa cuando los bomberos entraron. Nobody was home, background situation, when the firefighters entered. That action is an action that took place within that background. Situation or background information is in the imperfect. Completed actions are in the preterite. So to continue our conversation about the difference between the two tenses, we're going to highlight the other uses of the imperfect. Preterite and imperfect tenses may be used in a single sentence together to tell what day or time it was. Anytime you see references to time, we will always use the imperfect in the past. Eran las 5 de la mañana. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. When you want to describe the weather in the past, whatever verb you're using, if it's a verb related to weather, it'll be in the imperfect. Llovía mucho. It was raining a lot. To describe the physical, mental, and emotional states of a person or thing, any descriptions of physical, mental, emotional states, we're going to use the imperfect there as well. Mucha gente quería ayudar. Many people wanted to help. Querer is an emotional state of wanting. Estar the verb to be, with some descriptive adjectives of feeling. Parecer, to appear, and some descriptive adjectives of feeling. Triste is sad. Cansado is tired. Mal just means bad. Sentirse is the verb to feel good or to feel sick. Tener is the verb to have, but we can use it for a variety of different situations when we talk about feelings, physical states. Tener calor is to be hot. Tener frío is to be cold. Tener hambre is to be hungry. Tener sed is to be thirsty. And tener sueño is to be tired. Pensar is to think. Querer is to want. Saber is to know. These are all verbs used with descriptive adjectives that describe physical, mental, or emotional states. And that's why all these are going to be in the imperfect. Preterite is used to talk about when something happened, completed action, and to talk about an event, right? The preterite is used to indicate event that took place. So we're going to watch a video. That does a quick summary of those different situations. I'm actually going to let this video play. It's very short, so for those of you at home that don't have access to it, you can watch it.
You're going deep into your memory. Remember, the imperfect tense can describe an event when something happened.
Yes, I remember. Estaba en la ducha cuando comenzó a llover.
Estaba en la ducha, I was in the shower, background information in the imperfect. Cuando comenzó a llover, when it began to rain, completed action in the preterite.
You can use the imperfect tense to talk about other things. It's very handy. We'll cover three of them: the time, the weather, and feelings. Time!
Eran las 8 cuando vi la explosión.
Eran las 6 cuando llegó mi esposo.
So this is the verb ser, right? ¿Qué hora es? Son las 3 de la tarde. We use the verb ser in the present to talk about what the time is now. So it only makes sense to use the verb ser in the past. And again, the imperfect is used when we talk about time. So it's still the verb ser, just the imperfect of ser. And your only two options, are going to be era, if the time is singular, or eran, if the time is plural. Singular meaning 1 o'clock, plural meaning 2 or any other time.
The weather.
Ayer llovía cuando fui al trabajo. Hacía frío en la Antártica.
Usually the verb hacer is used to talk about the weather, and it'll always be the third person singular. Hacía. Hacía frío. It was cold in Antarctica.
Feelings. La niña tenía miedo.
Estaba cansado, pero quería ayudar a la niña.
3, 2, 1. And you're awake and feeling better now. So that's our three other uses for the imperfect tense: the time, the weather, and a whole bunch of feelings. I'm getting another feeling. I feel like a quiz is coming up.
Complete the following sentences. Use the imperfect tense.
Ser. Las 3 de la mañana.
Take a look at page 196 of your textbook. Those are the irregular conjugations in the imperfect. This is talking about time here, so I'm going to use time. 3 o'clock is plural, so it's the third person plural of ser.
Eran las 3 de la mañana. Hacer. Frío cuando ocurrió el incendio.
So El frío means cold, so this is an expression of weather. And again, you're always going to use the third person singular when we talk about weather. Third person singular of the imperfect.
Hacía frío cuando ocurrió el incendio. Estar. La bombera no. Asustada.
Asustada means to be startled or frightened. The firefighter was not frightened, feeling or emotion. Estar in the imperfect, in the él, ella form. In this case, ella.
La bombera no estaba asustada.
All right, so that does that. Exercise 12 is a great example of how the time is expressed in the imperfect, using the imperfect of the verb ser to indicate what time it was when these events took place. You guys can go to the very end of the chapter. I know we didn't go over the key vocabulary in advance. 262 gives you the different weather events. The very top left-hand corner. So you're going to use those to complete exercise 12 on page 248. So take a look at the example there. ¿Qué hora era? This is a conversation between you and your partner. So the first part is going to be a question about asking what time was it. ¿Qué hora era cuando comenzó? Is how you'll begin all the questions for numbers 1 through 6. And then you're just going to replace la tormenta de nieve, which is a snowstorm. Tormenta is a storm. Nieve, snow. Replace that with these different weather events. La tormenta de lluvia, it's a rainstorm. La inundación is a flood. El incendio, we saw from the video last class, that's a fire. Again, 262 gives you all the vocab. So, ¿qué hora era cuando comenzó la tormenta de nieve? And then use the time to indicate the time. Eran las 4 de la tarde cuando comenzó. So, eran cuando comenzó, you're going to use and then just fill in the middle with the time that's expressed there in above the weather occurrence. 1 o'clock, though, would be era instead of eran because 1 is singular. And then the last activity we're going to do together is exercise 14, ¿Y tú qué dices? These are questions directed to you. So the questions, for the most part, are in the to form, and the responses are going to be in the yo form, using the preterite and the imperfect together. ¿Qué hora era cuando te despertaste hoy? What time was it when you woke up today? Use the verb ser in the imperfect to indicate the time, just like the previous exercise, and then conjugate te despertaste in the yo form, in the preterite. That's the verb to wake up. ¿Tenías mucho sueño cuando te levantaste? Were you really tired when you woke up this morning? Yes or no question. So use the verb tener sueño in your response in the yo form. That's in the imperfect. And then use the verb levantarse in the preterite in the yo form to indicate when I got up, right? In the preterite. ¿Qué tiempo hacía cuando saliste de casa? What was the weather like when you left home? So this is an expression in the imperfect. This is an expression in the preterites. Indicate the weather. Frío, calor, sol, viento. And then use the verb salir, the verb to leave in the preterite. ¿Alguien estaba todavía en casa? Was there anybody still at home when you left? Indicate who that person was, if anyone. Nadie means nobody. You can indicate that nobody was there. ¿Qué hora era cuando llegaste a la escuela? What time was it when you arrived to school? This is the verb llegar in the preterite. Remember that car, gars, are verbs have that irregular spelling in the O form. You can take a look at page 110, which has the conjugations, regular conjugations in the preterite. Había muchos estudiantes. Were there many students? Use the verb haber, and that's a yes or no question. So, sí había or no, no había. Finally, ¿cómo estabas cuando comenzaste a estudiar? How did you feel when you began studying or working in your first class? So you can see how the preterite and the imperfect is used together. Everything in yellow there is going to be in the imperfect on page 194, 196. All the verbs in green are in the preterite tense, 110 and 140.